Good evening. I'm Maribel Charouk. At least one person is dead and 16 people are injured after a major pileup on Highway 401 near Kingston. And it's looking like a long night ahead for emergency crews as the highway is not expected to be open until tomorrow. The CBC's Frédéric Pépin has the details.
The Ontario Provincial Police has confirmed that this multiple vehicle collision happened just around 2:30 p.m. on Sunday, just about an hour or so after the big snowstorm started to hit the region of Kingston here. More than 30, between 30 and 40 vehicles involved. We're talking cars, but also large trucks, tractor trailers, collisions between multiple vehicles. One person died on scene. Frontenac paramedic did bring up to 16 people at the hospital, 3 in critical condition. Here is the spokesperson for the Ontario Provincial Police.
We don't know the exact cause as of yet. That's going to be the part of the investigation. We do have our traffic collision investigators. There's 2 going to be here for a period of time to do the technical part of the reconstruction and investigation. So we'll take some time for them to go through the scene, given the sheer number of vehicles.
The Red Cross, Kingston Police, and Kingston Transit assisted the OPP here and were able to bring some of the people that were stranded for many hours on Highway 401 to a recreational facility to warm up. The Ontario Provincial Police is continuing their investigation in this multiple vehicle collision and is reminding people to adapt their driving to the weather conditions. Frédéric Pépin, CBC News, Kingston.
It was a slow day for travelers everywhere as Pearson Airport reported some delays and cancellations. More than 18% of departures and 17% of arrivals had been canceled today, along with numerous delays. Travelers are warned to check their flight status beforehand, even going into tomorrow. Well, the weather has also caused thousands to lose power in southern and central Ontario, including 6,000 customers in Toronto's West End who were in the dark for hours this evening. The Lake Erie and Niagara region were hit hardest, with some people there expected to spend the night without power. The Weather Network's Mark Robinson was nearby in Waterdown, and he spoke to CBC earlier this evening.
You can see behind me, the power is out, and the one thing that I'm actually quite happy about is that people are treating this is actually a traffic light, they're treating it as a 4-way stop. I have seen one crash a little further to the west. Someone wasn't paying attention. This is the situation that's sort of ongoing throughout Waterdown and other areas in and around southern Ontario, given the amount of ice that has fallen and accreted on the power lines and tree branches. We expect quite a bit of power outages, and they're continuing even as the storm begins to move to the east. This storm has somewhat overachieved in terms of the amount of ice that it's brought to this area. And of course, now we're talking about snow in Kingston, and this has been a very dangerous and unfortunately deadly storm.
That's the Weather Network's Mark Robinson. Well, here in the city, plows and salters are out making sure the streets are clear for the morning rush hour tomorrow. Even though a weather advisory was in place for Toronto, some people were still out making the most of the snow and sleet. Natalie Nanowski has the details.
Toronto's waterfront, frigid and icy. Still, people were maneuvering the slippery sidewalks.
I am a winter person anyways. I was a ski instructor and director for years. I can't do the hermit thing. There's no way. So you got to dress for it.
Across the water, planes were grounded at Billy Bishop Airport as well as at Pearson. Environment Canada sent out a warning that winds could reach speeds of 70 kilometers an hour.
Due to the weather conditions, we are actually closed.
Those who bought tickets for Toronto's Christmas market were a bit disappointed.
When we left Bowmanville this morning, just shortly before 10 o'clock, the roads were pretty clear. And then, obviously, it got gradually worse as we crossed Pickering.
Salters were out since last night preparing the roads.
The goal today for road operations is to get these roads in good condition for the Monday morning commutes.
Until then, officials asked people to stay off of them.
We've got crashes happening all over the GTA, right down from Niagara Falls, up through Toronto and further north. We had a fatality on the QEW early this morning around 8 o'clock, and since then it's been busy with collisions, crashes, cars spinning out, transport trucks, jackknifing, multi-vehicle collisions.
So we took the go in, so we didn't have to drive, so we have that luxury. And the TTC brings us right here, so no driving in the city, so we all do that. So it just makes sense from transportation to not drive yourself.
You're all bundled up. Are you warm?
Yeah, we're warm.
Yeah. What are you wearing?
Snow pants, a coat, and then 2 pairs of mittens and gloves.
Yeah. What do you think about this weather?
It's harsh and it hurts your face.
That's true. And so is the fact that dressing for the weather will keep you warm, since this likely isn't our last winter storm. Natalie Nanowski, CBC News, Toronto.
Well, this was something we were talking about yesterday, Marta, and it looks like your forecast came quite true today.
Well, I mean, I can't say we told you so, but we told you so. And that little girl said that it hurt her face. Now, that would be ice pellets, and it was that mix throughout the day. You saw that rain, you saw the ice pellets, you saw the snow, and unfortunately, there are going to be some light flurries continuing into the morning hours, and it's going to make the morning commute messy. Even though it is those flurries, I mean, people, they forget to drive, even when it is just that dusting of snow. Monday morning, -2, feels like -8. You see that snow icon there. By the afternoon, the snow goes away, the flurries dissipate. 1 degree, feeling like -4 for Toronto. So let's just see that. That Colorado low moving out east, and then it's going to develop into something else, and that's going to be a story for the Atlantic. But behind it, those flurries. Now, we'll talk a little bit later about when we'll see snow again, but it's the morning commute that you have to be aware of. Please give yourself some extra time. Light flurries will continue in the morning for the Golden Horseshoe area, inclusive of the GTA. So if you are heading out, please do give yourself some extra time, 2 to 5 centimeters for areas inclusive of the GTA. As I mentioned, as you move further east, it's going to be just below that 5 centimeters. And before I let you guys go, we'll take a look at the conditions for the GTA. 1 degree in Oakville and 1 in Toronto.
Okay, we'll check back with you in a bit. Thanks, Marta. Peel police are looking for suspects after a fatal shooting in Brampton last night.
We believe that it's a isolated incident, and with regards to public safety, we do have officers in the area.
It happened on Rosepack Avenue in the area of Beauvert and Kennedy just before 6:30 p.m. Police arrived to find an 18-year-old man with obvious gunshot wounds outside a residence. That is where he later died. Police are looking for a white or light-colored vehicle with multiple suspects inside. No further description has been given, and anyone with information is asked to come forward. Toronto is the spot for a meeting with the country's premiers tonight. It's their first opportunity to meet since the federal election and plan for how to deal with Trudeau's minority government. But can they all agree? David Cochrane looks at what is on the agenda.
They've gone to court and waged political war with the Prime Minister over his climate plan. Now they're going nuclear.
Implementing small modular reactors will provide meaningful action in reducing our carbon emissions in electricity production.
A 3-province agreement to develop small-scale nuclear reactors. The opening move in a winter gathering of Canada's premiers at a time when agreement has been hard to find.
In light of the divisions that we saw on the federal election evening, and is there a place for premiers to come together, come to a consensus on a few items on behalf of all Canadians, and come to that consensus to provide that direction for the steps forward.
Justin Trudeau has been meeting with the premiers one by one and will meet with them as a group in the new year. The premiers are meeting in Toronto to sort out their goals for that meeting.
For Ontario, it's always economic development and jobs.
And I think for New Brunswick, certainly the outstanding issue that's been there for a while is the softwood lumber agreement.
Expect that list to grow as more premiers arrive.
Our focus, frankly, is on issues of immediate concern to Albertans.
Jason Kenney has the biggest demands, at least in raw dollar amounts, wanting support from his colleagues and billions from Ottawa to offset the hit his economy has taken from the oil slump.
I think we're going to see, hopefully, a strong consensus on the fiscal stabilization program, the equalization rebate, and on Bill C-69. I will listen to what my colleagues have to say about increasing health transfers, but our focus, again, is on those other issues.
The premiers had a private dinner at this Italian restaurant to try to find some common ground in a more social setting before the formal meetings begin in the morning. One big topic of discussion will be health care, and on that issue, the premiers have one common position. They all want more money from the federal government. David Cochran, CBC News, Toronto.
If you look at Finland and Canada, we have so much similarities. I think we can also work together when it comes to climate change.
Finland has set an ambitious goal to go carbon neutral by 2035. That is 15 years earlier than the European Union. Coming up, we'll sit down with that country's Minister of Economic Development to find out how they plan to do it. Stay with us. A crucial new phase begins this week in the impeachment proceedings in Washington. With the investigation by the House Intelligence Committee over, the House Judiciary Committee is picking up the ball to consider formal charges against the president. But as Paul Hunter reports, this evening Donald Trump turned down an offer for his legal team to finally get involved, at least not now.
Having labeled it a witch hunt and a phony hoax, tonight Donald Trump took on the impeachment process again, with the White House telling Democrats that despite an invitation, Trump lawyers will not take part in new hearings set to begin Wednesday. This as lawmakers return to Capitol Hill this week and the entire impeachment process moves to a new stage with an examination of what exactly is an impeachable offense. In prior hearings last month, witness after witness told their versions of the same broad story, that Trump tried to pressure Ukrainian President Zelensky into digging up dirt on Trump rival Joe Biden. Say Democrats, an abuse of presidential powers aimed at personal political gain for Trump. Based on what they've learned so far, say some,
I've made very clear I think this is impeachable conduct.
It's the Ukrainian aspect, note others, that sets Trump apart from both Richard Nixon and Bill Clinton and their impeachment processes.
This conduct is more serious.
Democrat Zoe Lofgren, the only lawmaker to have worked the Nixon, Clinton, and Trump hearings, underlines the U.S. Constitution forbids the kind of thing Trump is said to have done.
What the founding fathers were concerned about, it was the interference by foreign governments in our political system that was one of their gravest concerns.
Tonight, as lawmakers prepare to make the case, even without Trump's lawyers on hand, that it is indeed impeachable, Trump has another call to make, whether he himself will testify in his own defense. A deadline for that decision is Friday. Paul Hunter, CBC News, Washington.
Former Bank of Canada Governor Mark Carney has been named the UN's Chief Special Envoy on Climate Action. Carney's stepping down as Bank of England governor. In his new role, he'll push for the financial sector to take climate change risks into account. Carney says full climate risk disclosure in financial reporting is essential, and he's urging investment aimed at net zero carbon emissions. Carney replaces Michael Bloomberg, who's embarked on a U.S. presidential campaign. Finland has an ambitious climate goal to be carbon neutral in 15 years. The country's Minister for Development and Foreign Trade is in Toronto tonight. Tomorrow, he's meeting with Canada's Environment Minister and others to share insights on fighting climate change. Our Angelina King sat down with him ahead of those meetings to discuss how the country plans to meet its goal.
Finland has a goal to be carbon neutral by 2035, 15 years earlier than the EU. It's ambitious. How do you plan to get there?
Well, it's true. Finland has probably the most ambitious climate agenda in the world. It's teamwork. It's something that we have to do together with the public and private sector, but also with the people and the industries. We are composing roadmaps with each and every sector. So the most important thing is that we do understand how to approach the challenges at each sector. But we have to be sustainable. We have to be sustainable when it comes to people, when it comes to economy, and when it comes to social side. So everybody must have effort for this change. That's the key.
And what do you think the biggest challenges are, and then what will you do to try and overcome those?
it takes courage from the public side, from the politicians, but also the private side that we work together. And then we must have a dialogue with the people that how we deploy the solutions at the practical level. And once again, it has to be cost efficient also from average people's wallet's point of view, if you like.
We have so many similarities: cold climate, heavy industry that requires a fair amount of energy. But there was a new report that came out, and it says that Canada isn't on track to meet its emissions, let alone carbon neutrality in general. What's your advice to Canada? What should we be doing?
There is no one silver bullet to solve the problems. But we really have to be holistic and look at each and every segment, but at the end of the day, to have a holistic strategy. And once again, start from the citizens, start from the consumers, and really get the mutual understanding on how to go further and compose the roadmaps. It has to be socially and economically sustainable.
And how do you make it economically and socially sustainable?
Well, if we look at the electricity or heating in Finland, just to give you a concrete example, and if we look at the CHP, for instance, how we provide electricity and heat, we do it together with the industry. So, and also the circular economy is the key, that we are more sustainable when we look at the raw materials. But there's so much also new business opportunities if you look at the value chain within the circular economy at the global level. I think that's something Finland and Canada could really and should work together. I think we share the same values and the same concern what we have when it comes to climate change and the global situation. And I think Finland, Canada, as I said, we can really show leadership at the global level. And when we put ourselves together, I think we're going to have a good team.
Daylight come and me want go home.
It is a classic calypso hit written for crooner Harry Belafonte. Deo's composer, Irving Burgi, has passed away. And tonight we'll take a look back at his life and legacy. That's coming up. Stay with us. A key figure in popularizing Caribbean music has passed away. Not everyone will recognize the name Irving Burgi, but his hit songs included Island in the Sun, Jamaica Farewell, and Mary's Boy Child. And as Jelena Adzik reports, this one.
Decades ago, for many in Canada and the U.S., this calypso tune brought the first taste of Caribbean culture.
Day-o, day-o, daylight come and me want go home.
Adapted from folklore music, Deo was co-written by Irving Burgi in 1952 and co-written and popularized by the voice of Harry Belafonte. Now, that song from Burgi has been used in countless different ways. Many remember it fondly from the film and Broadway musical Beetlejuice. Here's that pretty famous scene where it's stylized by Canadian Catherine O'Hara. Astronauts even used it as their wake-up song on space shuttle missions in the 90s. In many ways, the song served as a mirror to the way Western culture has changed over the past 5 decades. From a young Justin Trudeau belting it out at a costume party, its use has at times been contentious. Burgi himself was steadfast in his commitment to his heritage. Long before collecting royalties for Deo, he served in an all-black U.S. Army battalion in World War II and used GI Bill funds to pay for musical training, including time spent at the Juilliard School of Music. The Brooklyn-born composer went on to write the lyrics to the national anthem of his mother's homeland, Barbados. Here's one stanza that exemplifies his pride. We write our names on history's page with expectations great, strict guardians of our heritage, firm craftsmen of our fate. So while Irving Burgi will mostly be remembered for Deo, the composer left the world with many other classic Caribbean hits, including Island in the Sun and Jamaica Farewell. Songwriter Irving Burgi was 95 years old. Jelena Adzik, CBC News, Toronto.
Let's check back in with Marta for a look at the forecast. So we're through this one storm, but not fully done with the flurries.
No, not fully done, but it's not going to be as messy as it was today. Unfortunately, though, the flurries will continue in through the morning commute, and you can see by the afternoon those flurries are gone. However, do give yourself some extra time. Taking a look at the forecast conditions across Ontario, I mean, in extreme southwestern Ontario, you still have that mixing. In Toronto, it's 1 degree with that snow, and that, as I mentioned, it's just those flurries in for the morning hours. And just looking at a tighter look at when those flurries were happen and where, rather, in through the Golden Horseshoe, Niagara Falls, and much of the GTA, and then heading east as well. Through the Golden Horseshoe area, you could see 2 to 5 centimeters of snow inclusive of the GTA, and then as you head further east, just below 5 centimeters. So definitely that's snow. Now, when can we see snow again? Well, you see this front. It's going to be slicing on through Tuesday evening, overnight. You saw that swath of blue. Well, that's the next chance we could see that. And then behind that front, another swath of blue. And if you can see these little arrows, that's some westerly winds that are going to be triggering some of that lake effect snow along the shores of Lake Huron and Georgian Bay. Not necessarily maybe reaching Toronto, but again, that icon is there for Wednesday. So Tuesday overnight into Wednesday, that next chance that you could see some of those flurries. Just this 3-day forecast for areas in and around the GTA. Again, Barrie, which is a little bit closer, could see that rain, flurries throughout with the 60% chance throughout the day. Now let's take a look at the 7-day forecast for Toronto. I mean, it is below seasonal for this time of year. It should be around 4. So again, 1 degree, just slightly below seasonal. We do have that chance of snow again, those flurries for Wednesday, but just a slight chance. And then the weekend looking fairly nice, but I mean, it's getting a little bit chilly, but I guess we'll talk about that a little bit later. Next time, I guess.
It's December, so we'll be talking a lot about it. Thanks, Marta. Well, an all-female choir that aims to support military women made a guest appearance at a show that sheds light on soldiers who come home from war.
A whisper that became a shout. I heard them call my name out loud.
The Canadian Military Wives Choir will play at 9 showings of Soldier On. With a cast full of ex-soldiers, the play shows the transition that veterans go through when they finally come home. The 3-part harmony choir has members who are closely associated with the military, either by marriage or by occupation.
The anthem that we're going to sing tonight is actually the Soldier On play's anthem. And it's about how everyone perseveres through the issues that come up and all the situations that arise during the veterans' transition, and how we keep going and moving forward and getting past those, and we support each other just like our choirs do.
Soldier On is playing at the Canadian stage until December 7th. And that's our show for you tonight. We know it was a messy day out there today, but we're going to leave you with some of the beauty that the storm left behind. Thanks for watching. You can stay caught up on news anytime on our website, cbcnews.ca. Have a great night, everyone.